Donate a kidney. Go to Angie Aiken Facebook. We'll start saying that. Okay, every video will start doing that. Okay, I'm going to interview a person here. His name is Bernard Richard. Bernard Richard, the former ombudsman. Bernard Richard, the former politician. Bernard Richard, the former child advocate, the first one. Bernard Richard, as I always say, the man with ADHD. My God, he can't get enough. He's so full of energy, he can't get enough jobs or issues. And he's in British Columbia. I haven't talked to him in a couple of years. He's expecting my call, no problem. He was one of the first one that I did an audio with. Remember, I used to do these audio, that was, my God, 12 years ago. Yes, I'm getting old. So we're going to phone him. I guess I'm not going to go into details. We're just going to do the video, no editing, and see how he's doing. He was on CBC this morning, so the word is spreading that he's coming back. And we need more people like that. I wish he would become a judge. So anyway, let's see. 1 minute early.
Good morning, Representative for Children and Youth. How can I help you?
Can you give me Bernard Richard, please?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that.
Oh, can you give me Bernard Richard, please? My name is LeBlanc, Charles.
Just one moment, Mr. LeBlanc. I'll see if he's available.
Thank you. My God, I thought I had a direct connection. My ego. Call me Mr. LeBlanc. He'll say I'm 30 seconds early. Maybe he doesn't want to talk to me. Uh, 2 minutes and 40 seconds. What can you do? Mr. Richard is a busy man. Bigger population in British Columbia than New Brunswick. Yes, lots of issues. Maybe he could strain out a few native issues here in New Brunswick. Who knows? Beautiful day. Oh, Friday the 13th today. People are just riding by, bicycle with no helmet. 3 minutes. Are you still?
Hi, Mr. LeBlanc. I'll just transfer you through, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Allô?
Bonjour.
Charles Leblanc, comment ça va?
Ça va bien.
Good, good.
I see there's more manners in British Columbia than New Brunswick. They call me Mr. LeBlanc.
Go on, hein?
Yeah, came a long way.
C'est peut-être parce qu'ils ne connaissent pas, je sais pas, moi, là.
They don't know me. We gotta speak English. The majority of my viewers are English.
Okay.
I wish
I'm happy to speak English.
I wish we could speak le français, le bon chiac. So how you doing? You haven't talked to you in a few years.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I don't think changed much, except that I'm a lot older, but I'm doing the same things and certainly keeping very busy. It's a big job here. It's a big province. 203 First Nations.
203?
First Nations.
Wow.
and lots of big city issues like homelessness in the greater Vancouver area, downtown east side issues. The opioid crisis is big here. It affects everyone, of course, but kids aging out of care are particularly vulnerable, and so it's been a lot of hard work. But
Do you dye your hair yet?
I never dyed my hair.
You sure?
and you'll see it. It's growing grayer every day.
Could you send me a selfie so I could put it online with this video?
I will do that for you.
For me, oh, I appreciate that, Bernard. Okay, that's the end of the interview. We just want to know if you dye your hair. So there's a bigger population. Duh. There's a big difference when you... Okay, how did you land it there anyway? Was there just a job opening online and you said, well, this sounds good to me, I'm going to apply?
Well, as you know, I'd been kind of doing odds and ends, and you know all about that. I'd worked with the PEI Auditor General. I'd done some work for the legislature, did some work for the city of Fredericton, and but did a lot of volunteer work for about 5 years. And when this job came up, I knew the advocate who was retiring, because we were both appointed child and youth advocates in our respective provinces in 2006, and actually someone who I'd done some work with, who's from BC but is now the mayor of Sackville, New Brunswick, sent me an email, and he said, you should apply for this job. And
you have a son that's there.
We have a son that's not far from Victoria, and 3 grandsons. And our youngest grandson had just been born at the end of August 2016, and it was a difficult pregnancy and a difficult childbirth. So my wife was actually already here helping out, and we talked about it, and I just sent my resume, and things kind of happened pretty quickly after that. I came for an interview in Vancouver, and I guess I would have been October, and then in November they contacted me and offered me the job. So we moved to Victoria. I came quickly because they needed someone quickly. I was appointed acting representative for children and youth for British Columbia at the end of November. I started November 27th, I think, and then when the legislature met in February, I was confirmed.
Okay, so when you work, I know you. I bet you didn't spend too much time with your grandkids and your son while working there.
The occasional weekend, of course, and we're heading there tomorrow to spend the weekend, until Sunday with them. So, yeah, of course. I mean, we and my wife, of course, spent much more time with them than I did. Yes, you know me quite well. I've been working hard here.
The population is bigger.
It's 4.5 million people. The population of BC, it's about 6 times the population of New Brunswick. They're big cities.
And you have tents on the street. True homeless people, tents on the street.
Oh, there are thousands of homeless people in British Columbia. The climate is so people come from different parts.
Because it's warm.
It's warmer. The winters are not as harsh. Certainly in the Vancouver and Victoria areas. In the north here, they have real winters, of course. It's a big province, right? But in where I am, I mean, I look out my window now. Charles, I'm talking to you. I can look out my window and see tulips and daffodils, and the flowers are all out. The lawns are luscious green, and I think that in Victoria they had 2 snowfalls in the whole winter.
So when you look out your window, do you see people riding their bicycles on the sidewalk with no helmet?
Geez, people do wear helmets here. I don't know.
You have to wear a helmet there. That's the law. Here I see people riding bicycle with no helmet. Okay, we're jumping there. Sorry, it's been a while. You know the both our ADHD is jumping here. Okay, so if you see a person Here in Fredericton, they want to put a tent beside the river during the summer months. They send the police. How come the homeless people are not allowed to pitch a tent where they want, but you see in British Columbia and Toronto and Montreal, they pitch right on the street?
But homelessness is an issue here as well. I mean, there have been tent cities. They've been dismantled here as well. There's a lot of work to provide shelters and places for a lot of young people. Not only young people, but a lot of young people come here from a lot of the other Western provinces.
Yeah.
And so there are efforts to provide affordable housing and to support those. I mean, I don't think enough is being done, but certainly even though the climate is warmer here, especially in the lower mainland of British Columbia, there are public parks that other people want to use. And there are public lands, and certainly there are businesses. So the same kinds of issues exist here that exist in New Brunswick. I think there's, but certainly the issue of homelessness is much more front and center here because the numbers are so high.
So what did you learn? You're coming back here to Nouveau Brunswick. What did you learn? What are you bringing with you that you didn't know when you left?
Yeah, I've learned a lot about British Columbia, but I've also learned that there are ways to make improvements in Indigenous, Aboriginal child welfare. I've kind of visited many First Nations. I've talked to many leaders. I've talked to agency leads, and I've seen some great work being done here. In one community, for example, they haven't had a child taken into care in 10 years, one First Nation. And I said, what's your secret? I mean, it's such a big issue across the country. They've said, they just don't allow it. They've taken parents into care because some kids were at risk. They've removed the parents from the home, gotten them into treatment when that was needed, if they had issues with drugs or alcohol, and they brought in extended family members, an auntie or an uncle, to move in with the children so the kids stay in their room. They go to the same school. They don't go into foster care. They stay within their community and within their culture. I think that's a brilliant solution when it's possible and when it's available. So
What did you learn? We'll jump here. What did you learn about, like, never mind the natives issue? What did you learn, white man or the normal, everybody issue? What did you learn that you didn't know when you arrived there, when you left here?
Yeah, I think I had notions. I think I know the country pretty well, but what I did learn that did surprise me is that for a very rich province, British Columbia is a very rich province. Unemployment rate is a little over 4%, it's the lowest in Canada. They've had many years of surplus budgets, I think 4 or 5. That for a rich province, there are all kinds of issues here as well. Poverty is a big issue. Inequality as well, and racism exists here as it does everywhere.
I guess the Chinese or just natives or what?
Well, natives but as well. I mean, I was in some parts of Greater Vancouver, for instance. The signage. The issues is not about English and French signs. It's about
English and Chinese.
Is in Chinese.
Yeah.
And in some parts of Vancouver, there are more signs in Chinese than there are in English.
Yeah, I wrote a letter to the editor when I said, you think we got that was the old days. You think we got a problem between French and English? You just wait till Hong Kong is handled back to China. You're going to see. And boy, was I ever right for once on this issue.
And the cost of living, Charles, on the West Coast.
How much is a quart of milk?
It's very high. I mean, I don't know, but
you don't know how much a quart of milk? Are you that high class? You got servants serving you what?
Well, I've never. I mean, I don't know. I haven't. I don't remember.
What? You don't go grocery shopping?
I do go grocery shopping. Yes.
How much is a quart of milk?
I don't know, Charles.
You don't know? Okay. Maybe you can find out. You'll send that information with that selfie.
I'll send you with my photo, but I can tell you the cost of housing is
I know.
high. Just that I work on every day. I meet with young people who age out of care and just can't afford to live anywhere. They couch surf and they end up living 4 or 5 people together, and sometimes bad things happen. And housing is almost a crisis here. In the last election, it was really the big issue, along with childcare. Politics are fascinating in BC.
Do the poor vote?
No, not that much. People don't vote a whole lot here. I think the percentage of the vote at the last election was a little over 50%. It's not high. It's lower than New Brunswick.
Maybe they'll vote more after the pipeline. Listen, the First Nation. You said 203 First Nation.
Yeah.
Have you seen any that has no drinking water?
There's high rates of poverty here, but there are also in First Nations. There are also very wealthy First Nations because of resource development or where they're located, and that's true in New Brunswick as well. You know, if you're a First Nation in downtown Fredericton, there are more opportunities than if you're an isolated First Nation, say in Burnt Church or Red Bank.
Do they have drinking water?
There are water issues here. Most of the water issues around in Canada's First Nations are in the
Ontario.
Ontario and northern western provinces, so they're more in the north, but there are issues of poverty, of housing is a big issue in First Nations in British Columbia. Unemployment is a big issue. So it really depends, but there are some very wealthy First Nations. Osoyoos First Nations that I visited, it's near the U.S. border in British Columbia. It has full employment. It recruits employees from other First Nations in that area of BC to work there. They have businesses, they have a resort, they have a golf course, they have a camp.
So they're doing good. They're just like the white man. There's some white man that's doing good, there's some white man that's doing bad. Same thing.
Yeah, absolutely, I think. But there's obviously more poverty in First Nations than there is outside of First Nations. That's true here as it is in New Brunswick.
How did you find out about this job? What happened? This job that you're coming back here.
Well, I was home for Christmas, and I was contacted by Chief George Guinish of Eel Ground First Nations. I'd worked with him in the past. He asked to meet with me, so I met with him, the chief of Fort Folly, down where you come from, near Sackville, and the chief of Papineau Falls, near Bathurst, and they asked me if I would come back. They're building a new child welfare agency. They've gotten some funding. The new agency is based on a model that I helped develop when I was in New Brunswick just before I came here. I worked on that project for 3 years. It's based on prevention, taking fewer kids into care, supporting families, keeping families together. These are all things that they know I believed in. And so
you always had a soft spot for the natives anyway, same as here.
Mm-hmm. Yes, true. And so they asked me to come back, and I mean, it's a big job here, probably the biggest job I've ever had so far. I don't know, being a cabinet minister is a big job as well, but it's a big job because it was a new province. And so I wasn't sure what I do. I talked to my father. I made the mistake of telling my father I'd been offered a job in New Brunswick. So every week I talked to him.
How old is he?
He's 93.
By the way, I talked to your brother this morning. He said hello. Yep. Oh, I told him to whatever. If you were going to come here, the question was if he knew if you were going to have an office here in Fredericton. Where's going to be your office?
They've offered me to work from home. I'll be supporting the agency, but the agency has a CEO, and they've just announced yesterday who they've hired. I talked to her this morning. She's a Mi'kmaq woman who's who's going to be a very capable CEO for the agency. They want me to provide advice to the board. The board is made up of the 7 chiefs, and to work with the new CEO to develop this new model of Aboriginal child welfare that I believe in. So, I mean, every week I've talked to my father since Christmas. He's asking, he asks me, when are you coming home?
97 years old.
And he's 93 years old,
93.
but he's healthy. He drives his car. He goes to Moncton once a week.
Does he dye his hair?
He lives in his own house. He doesn't dye his hair. He doesn't have much of that left, but he's healthy, and he writes the occasional letter to the editor. They actually publish his letters in the Moncton
Oh, really?
transcript.
Excuse me. It's called the Irving Moncton paper.
I think he may have called it that himself. So I mean, at the end, it was a tough decision, but I decided it was time to go back home. I'm 67 years old. I'm not looking for a career. My career is in my rear view mirror. It's not. So I'm looking for opportunities to contribute, to do some good work, and so I decided this was a good thing for me to do for the next year or two.
You don't have to answer this. You're getting a cut in pay? Of course.
Yeah, I told Terry Sege, I think you know.
Who's that?
I told Terry that I've been offered a job with much less pay, almost no job security, no benefits, and no independence. It was an offer I couldn't refuse.
I just listened to your Terry Sege thing the last 2 minutes this morning. So I didn't hear it. So you're coming back, and you're coming with some expertise that could. What do you think you see the problem here, the First Nation here in New Brunswick? We know there's a drug problem. There's a drug problem everywhere, off reserve, on reserve. But they seem to really, the reserve is, First Nation is smaller, and you could see it more obvious. How are you going to fix that? How are we going to tackle it? They got warriors, John Levi, trying to fight it, and Elsie booked up, but they're having trouble.
Yeah, there are big issues there, as there are all over the country. My focus will be on children, on very young children. I think every society can improve if the foundation is strong, and the foundation for any village, for any community, are the children. And so the focus will be on preventing children from being taken into care, but also it will be respecting culture and language and custom and values that are Indigenous. Life in Indigenous communities became much worse once when we attempted to colonize them.
Oh, now you mentioned then, I asked for a woman. I asked a person, asked for a woman. There goes my ADHD. Too many coffees. I asked on Facebook, anybody has any question? And this Pamela Ross asked him if he's decolonized. Decolonized. I think she's being sarcastic, but what you just... Yes. Are you?
I don't know if she's being sarcastic or not, but I've worked, as you know, for many years now with First Nations community members. I did a pretty big report called Hand in Hand on the issues faced in First Nations. I visited every First Nation in New Brunswick, some many times. I spent a lot of time with elders and with community members. So I really, and my work here, 2/3 of the children in care in BC are Indigenous. So my work here has been with Indigenous people. I have probably 10 or maybe more Indigenous people who work in my office. I've hired Indigenous people in my office. So I think I feel that I have a better understanding now of the realities of Indigenous people in Canada than I did before. I've learned a lot here, but I've been trying to do that over the years, and that understanding I'll bring back with me in my job.
Do you think that it's better, like you hear about a problem, all right, you invite the family to your office. Do you believe in sacred fires and discuss the issue over a fire?
I believe that every community has its values and traditions, and that has some value. And it has value in Indigenous communities, it has values in Acadian communities, and it has values in all communities. What we've tried as a country to do is to quote, take the Indian out of the child. We've tried to assimilate Aboriginal Canadians for decades and decades. We put kids in residential schools.
You think the Pope should apologize?
I think the Pope should apologize, absolutely.
Les bons catholiques comme nous autres, on dit au pape mange la marde.
Si on est des bons catholiques, on ne dit pas ça, mais on dit admet les fautes de l'Église. Admit to the church's sins.
Yeah.
The church also has sin.
Yeah.
And you'll be forgiven if you confess and you apologize.
You have an opinion on Brady Francis? You know about that one? That native that was hit by a car in Saint Charles?
Yes. Yes.
You got a message for the people that was driving the truck?
Well, I think there should be a complete investigation, possibly an inquiry, to find out that if it was, what were the circumstances. I don't know what the circumstances
No, of course not.
were, but I think it should be found out.
But if they were bon catholic, they should step forward. And the natives are not a bad culture. They're a forgiving culture. They would sit down over a sacred fire, the healing session, and they should step forward. I'm sorry, I jumped the gun here.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know enough about the case, but I certainly agree that Indigenous peoples, both here out west and in New Brunswick, I've seen how they try to deal with issues within their communities, and those who are invested in their culture, they use talking circles, they respect elders, they try
do
to talk it out and to forgive and heal. I think you're right.
What about prisoners forcing to walk home after their sentence is done from provincial jail here in New Brunswick? The Liberal government makes them walk, give them a Google map. You have an opinion on that?
Yeah, I think it was a horrible situation. It should never have happened. I wrote to Charles Murray to say, I heard your interview. I think you're spot on. And I agree with how he's interpreted.
He spoke well.
As a case that ran against New Brunswickers' values.
Yeah.
That's not the type of thing we do, and it shouldn't have happened.
You should have. Could you have predicted Denis Landry would be Minister of Justice?
I probably wouldn't have predicted that. but I would have predicted is that because I knew him before he was a minister, and I would have predicted he would be a good minister because he's a people person.
Yeah, he is, but that's why I'm surprised that he don't speak up against forcing people to walk home. I mean, I don't get it.
Yeah, he's a member of cabinet and caucus. It's I've been in that position. Yep. It's not easy.
No.
If you criticize your own government, you're considered a traitor, and it's hard to do. That's the party system we have. There are a lot worse things in the world, but it does limit the independence of the members. So
that's why That's why Abel LeBlanc was never in the cabinet. Remember Abel?
That's certainly one of the reasons.
Oh, I'm getting flashback here. No, and if they ask you, why don't you become a judge? We need you, Bama.
That's not the kind of work I want to do. I've been offered to be appointed.
I know, with Bernard Lord.
And by Premier Lord, and I turned it down. It's not. I'd rather work closer to the ground. I think I'm doing that, and I'm happy to do that. I don't see myself in a judge's robe at all. Well, I hate wearing ties for one thing, and so I'm pretty content with the opportunities and options and choices I've had. And
how times change, eh? When you were all bored, when you were appointed ombudsman, and you were happy to see me come to the door.
That was only the first month, I think. After that, things changed pretty quickly. Yeah, you caused a lot of excitement.
Yeah, I was told politely, come on, stop coming here. My God, I was driving everybody nuts because I stayed in that area for 6 months. I didn't know anybody else. But no, excuse me for 1 second. I hope this recorder don't stop. If it did, it's a damn shame because sometimes it stops at 30 seconds. 59, 30. Good. We're gonna keep on going. No, it's good to see you back, and I'm sure the natives will be very, very happy to see you because it's the only time you see the English, les Acadiens, and the natives together will show gas. And we learn a lot from each other, and we're still learning. And it's
well, you're a wise man, Charles, and so dialogue, talking together, working together, whatever the issues are always better solutions, and that's what I'm really proud to have been asked to come back and work. This is the first time I'll be working exclusively for Indigenous communities, First Nations, and Indigenous children. I feel very proud of that. I feel honored to have been asked, and I'm really happy to do it. I'm 67. I could be retired.
And you dye your hair.
Some people would say I should be retired, but I just want to keep doing what I'm doing, and as long as I can, as long as I'm healthy enough to do it, and as long as there's barbers who are willing to dye my hair.
Dye your hair, yeah. It's coming out now. Lolo by Lolo, you got to have an office here in Fredericton so I can hunt you on the street. One more question is from the internet. Ask him what he missed the most while he was away, and what one thing BC does he wishes we would copy.
I miss my family the most, for sure. I miss, I'm an Acadian like you. I miss going to the post office, the store, the bakery, the arena, and speaking to people I know in French, feeling comfortable because I'm at home. So BC is a beautiful province, but it's not home. So what has BC done? It really is investing in Indigenous child welfare. Really, New Brunswick is probably one of the provinces that contributes less to Indigenous child welfare. It considers it a federal issue and not a provincial issue, and that's a shame. BC just in its last budget invested $50 million over 3 years in Indigenous languages. There are about 25. Now, the equivalent investment in New Brunswick would be $1 million or so a year.
That's not a lot.
By the provincial government, but they don't invest anything or hardly anything in Indigenous languages in Mi'kmaq, Maliseet, in New Brunswick, and so all of the money comes from the feds, whatever money is spent on languages. So there are lots of things we can learn from one another. I'm hoping to bring back some good ideas with me when I come back, and we'll see what we can do. I think we have a responsibility to do a much better job than we've done in the past, and I'm old enough that I can spend some time working on those issues now.
Well, I think it's very good to have you back. By the way, have I improved in these interviews?
You're way more.
Or am I worse?
You were the first time the first times that I've talked to you. So you must be working on your focus.
As a matter of fact, that's what I said in my little speech. You were one of the first one that I interviewed. My God, that was how long ago? 2005, 13 years ago.
Oh, it's 2005? Yeah.
2000.
I thought it was even before then. But so
yeah.
You've set up your tent in 2005?
2003, I set up my tent.
Okay, yeah.
And I think it became blogging, this audio thing about 2005, I think it was.
Okay.
But
because I was in the legislature still, I think, when I talked to you the first time. You were on that was before I became the ombudsman.
I haven't changed. I'm still fighting with the members of the police. But anyway, that's another story. We'll stay focused.
Hope you're not dyeing your hair, Charles.
I got none. I'll show you that. The Scottish gene have taken over. Have I missed? There's no editing here. By the way, Terry Sagan, was that live?
No, he taped it yesterday because there's 4 hours.
Yes.
4 hours earlier here, so we couldn't do it live.
So did he?
Well, we could have, but I would have had to get up at 3 in the morning.
That's what I thought. I thought you were pretty focused for a guy that was up at 3 o'clock in the morning.
No, we taped it yesterday.
I think the wife would have killed you talking on the phone at 3 o'clock in the morning. Was there any editing there?
I don't know what they ran. I didn't hear it myself, but normally they don't.
There's no editing here? None. So that's why I'm in so much trouble all the time. Did I forget anything?
I don't think so, Charles. I'm happy to go back to New Brunswick. You know, home is always home. I've been very well received here. I have great staff. 60 people work in my office. They're all dedicated. Most are social workers, but others are former policemen, researchers. I have 4 people with PhDs, I think 3 or 4 with PhDs. It's a very strong office here, well funded. You know, when I was in New Brunswick, I had a little over 20 staff, and I was the Ombudsman, the Child and Youth Advocate, and the Right to Information and Privacy Commissioner. Here I have over 60 staff, and I'm just the Child and Youth Advocate. Now, it's a bigger province and really big issues, but I feel well supported. I present to the committee of the legislature at least 5 or 6 times a year. I think
5 or 6 times a year?
Yeah.
Wow.
In New Brunswick, I presented, I think, twice and maybe 3 times in 7 years. It's a big difference. A lot of attention is paid to the issues that I work on here. So, but it's a great job. But
no, how's the justice system there? How do they treat do they charge people with summary and legal aid will not give them a lawyer? Do they do that there?
There are issues across the country, including in BC, around access to justice, being able to afford justice, very expensive. Legal aid doesn't cover nearly as much as it should. I work mostly with young people. As you know, there are fewer youth in custody in British Columbia than there are in New Brunswick.
Why?
6 times the population. They've used more the provisions. They're called alternative measures under the Youth Criminal Justice Act that New Brunswick has. So they find community solutions rather than the youth prison. There are 2 youth prisons, one for the north and one in just outside of Vancouver. They have, I think, around, I get the numbers every month, something around 40 inmates a month for a population of 4.5 million people.
So what's the problem here?
Yeah, I think there are lots of ways where we could improve our service. Not perfect anywhere, and there are lots of issues here, don't get me wrong, but I think that's one area where we could do a better job.
I had, when we had the police scanners, the good old days, somebody called and said, oh, I see a person, young kid enjoying a walk, nice beautiful day. He's not supposed to be outside, supposed to be in a group home. And they all hunt him down, and oh, what a racket. Can you get a lawyer for a civil suit in British Columbia? Is some poor person?
Not through legal aid, no.
Not through legal aid. I guess in Quebec you can.
Yeah, I'm trying. One of the things I'm working on here is having lawyers represent children in cases of really hard custody disputes, or if they're being taken into care, so that they have their own legal representation. Ontario does a really good job with that, and there's some work being done in Alberta. I'm trying to get that in BC as well, working with some folks here at the Law Foundation and elsewhere. So I think there may be small solutions here and there, but one step at a time. But New Brunswick is a bit behind the rest of the country in that.
And you're coming here in August?
Yes, end of August.
And you're going to announce that you're running for the Green Party, because the Green Party in British Columbia.
Yeah, I like the Green Party here. Yeah. They control the balance of power. I like their platform. I work with them, of course. I work with all members. I'm an officer of the legislature, but I do like the Green Party. I don't plan to run.
Sure, come on, say it right here. You're going to run in Shediac for the Green Party. That's why you're coming down, right?
that would be pretty disruptive, I would think. I don't know if I could find anybody to vote for me anymore. It's been so long since I've done that kind of work. But it's an intriguing idea, Charles. I'll think about it.
Okay, enough. My God, look at this. 40 minutes. My God. Okay.
We're getting silly, and I have.
Yes, exactly. Look, thank you very much. You're going to send me that picture of you, a selfie that you don't dye your hair. Can you send me that pretty soon?
I'll do that.
And I'll put
do
that
right away. I'll do it with the view of the view from my office here, which is hard to give up. It's the inner harbor of Victoria.
And if you see somebody riding a bicycle with no helmet in the sidewalk, can you take a picture for me, please?
If I see someone like that, I will take a picture.
Merci beaucoup, sir. You have a good day.
Bonjour, prends garde de toi, Charles.
Toi aussi, merci, Bernard.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Well, come on. You can't. How come? How come we can't have people with the same attitude and see the difference? And, he's open-minded. He always been open-minded. And I remember when, there are no tales here, Bernard Richard ran for the leadership after Frank McKenna, and the leadership was in St. John. And I tell you, it was at St. John Harbor Station. And you know what? Bernard Richard made the most beautiful speech in the whole thing. But its nomination convention, Camille Thériault won. Bernard Richard as Premier of the province. That would have been good. So, as he said, we were getting silly. 67 years old, and the natives are very, very, very fortunate to have a guy like that. Okay. I can't say more because he said it all, and let's see what happens.